Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to ARA Webinar Wednesday, our monthly program, which is approaching its 5-year anniversary in a few months. Today's program, PAVEAIR, FAA's free pavement management software, is presented by Mr. Timothy Parsons. Mr. Parsons joined ARA in 2002. He is currently leading the development of PAVEAIR. It is a free piece of software, as he'll address, so you've probably connected on free. Federal Aviation Administration Pavement Management Systems and PA40 is a specialized version of PAVEAIR that integrates falling weight deflectometer, roughness, laboratory, traffic information, and climatological data into the pavement management system. Now, Tim has performed a number of PCI inspections and implemented micropaver pavement management software for numerous airports all around the world. Tim has developed in-house clarification for several ASTM standards to ensure consistency between survey data and those used to instruct engineers and technicians in PCI surveying. He has over 20 years of experience in engineering and management, including pavement management, as we'll hear today, quality assurance, evaluation, and design, and also has a strong software development background. Now it's my great pleasure to introduce my colleague, turn it over to my good friend, Tim Parsons.
Okay, thank you, Jerry, for that introduction. And just to kick things off, we'll talk a little bit about what is it we're going to do here today, what are the learning objectives, what is it that we hope you get out of this webinar. A little bit of it will be a recap, what is pavement management, who's required to do it, and then we'll get into the meat of the presentation, which is an overview of the PAVEAIR capabilities, and then as I go through the capabilities, I'll pause in a couple places to point out some of the particular strengths or features of PAVEAIR that are fairly unique to this particular software. And then at the end, we'll cover how do you get started. So to start off with, what is a pavement management system, and in particular, an airfield pavement management system? For that, we'll go straight to the advisory circular. This is the document that defines and requires the use of pavement management systems for airfields in the United States. Advisory Circular number 150-5380-7B, and it in particular defines a pavement management system. It also uses the terminology pavement management program as a set of defined procedures for collecting, analyzing, maintaining, and reporting pavement data. It's a nice definition. What does this mean in the real world? In the real world, a pavement management program encompasses a lot of things, but we typically mean the software. The software is what takes up the bulk of the time. It's where we store our data. It's what we use our analysis in. Although technically a pavement management system or a pavement management program includes some larger elements, such as how often do I look at my particular pavement network, what are some of the things I can do to it, what are my repair policies, that sort of thing. But today we are going to focus on the software itself, and in particular kind of use the software itself to get into the specifics. So just to start off with, a pavement management program or pavement management system, you have to be able to track what kind of information do you have, what kind of pavements do you have, what condition are they in. It's basically a database to keep track of these sort of things. So what have you done in the past to your pavement system? What condition is it in now? What condition was it in 5 years ago? You have to be able to look at your information and pull this up so that you can use it in an analysis and figure out what it is you want to do and how to best maintain your pavements. The other things that you have to do with a pavement management system is you have to do some sort of analysis. Use all this information that we've collected, all this information that we've stored, and look at the trends. my pavement is deteriorating rapidly, or maybe this particular pavement over there is not deteriorating rapidly. Why is that? Could we use more of that? How could we make the rest of the pavement system deteriorate slower? This also allows us, when you look at the trends, what is my pavement condition likely to be in the future? 5 years from now, what's my condition going to be? When am I going to need to, when is it going to be in too bad a shape for me to use? So this also gets into, what do I need to do to my pavement management or my pavement system to keep it in good shape, and how much is it going to cost? And then the last thing that you need to do with a pavement management system is, you've got all this great information. You know what kind of shape your pavement system is in. You've done your analysis. You know that I need to do these types of things. I know that it's going to cost this much, but you need to be able to tell that story. You have to be able to go to your board or your airport executive or whoever and make the case that I really need to fix this piece of pavement. And with pavement management systems, we're looking not only for whenever, I need to fix this taxiway as opposed to that taxiway, but once you've made that decision, you have to be able to go to your executives and make the case that, you know what, this taxiway is actually more important for me to fix than, say, this piece of HVAC or a roadway or something like that. So you have to be able to get reports, maps, that sort of thing out of the system and tell the story to your to the people who control the money and provide the funding. So you have to have this system, or we have these systems, and the question comes up is, who has to do this? I mean, it's good practice. You should be doing it anyway. And if you read in the advisory circular, it flat out says the use of this advisory circular is not mandatory. However, highlighted in red here, it is mandatory for people who accept money from the federal government. And you can see on the right there a map. This is just the airports in the year 2022 that accepted money from the federal government. It's quite a large number. That's just 1 year's worth. And it actually, if there's similar maps, you can go back year over year. Pretty much most of the airports in the United States have to have this sort of system. And by money from the federal government, that includes both AIP funding or if you're using revenue from passenger facility charges. So, as I said, this is good practice, but pretty much every airport should be doing this anyway. So just to kind of recap before we move on into the specific software, a pavement management system, it's a set of defined procedures. We use it to support our decision making about what to fix, when to fix it, get estimates for what's it going to cost, and what kind of condition is it going to be in when I'm done. And to do that, we usually use software to aid us with the collection and particularly the organization and analysis of all the information. This is large sets of data. Some airports have hundreds or thousands of sections. Some systems have multiple airports in them, so you have to be able to keep it organized to do your correct analyses. And then once you've completed your analysis, you have to be able to report all this information out. Pavement management systems usually software-based. Most of the times when somebody says they're going to talk to you about your pavement management system or pavement management, they're usually talking about the software. Sometimes they're talking about the field work that goes into generating the data, but for the most part, they're talking about software. And anybody that uses AIP or PFC funds in the United States is required to have one of these systems of some sort. So, since you're required to have one, or most likely required to have one, there are several pieces of software out there. We're going to talk today about PAVEAIR in particular. What is it? What can it do? And then, again, focus on some of its strengths and unique features. About FAA PAVEAIR, it's an airport pavement management system. It was designed by the FAA specifically to meet the requirements of this advisory circular that they put out when they were developing this. There are other pieces of software out there, but they all require license fees or that sort of thing. The FAA looked at it and said, let's come up with a free to the public. Anybody can use system to meet our requirements. Since it's developed by the federal government, it's public domain, free to use, source code is available. It's a web-based system, which means you access it through the internet. You can actually install local copies on your behind your own firewall, but most people use the public version that the FAA hosts simply because there's no software to install. You log into the website and you can use the full set of the full software. To support this, a lot of regional settings, English, metric, that sort of thing. It's available in multiple languages, English, Spanish, French, and Portuguese. We've presented this at ALACPA and other conferences several times, so there's a fair amount of support from this in Central and South America. And I would like to add to this, ARA is actually the main developer of this particular software. We've been involved in this since 2014. We've been the lead developer since 2015. So the FAA has us support this so that the airport community across the United States and indeed worldwide has access to free and high quality pavement management software in order to meet the requirements that they put on the airports. As I said, I did want to point out this particular slide is a screenshot from an FAA training seminar, and they point out that FAA PAVEAIR satisfies this advisory circular. As I said, this was one of the main reasons that they developed the software, and if you're using PAVEAIR, you're by definition meeting a significant portion of the advisory circular. So just a little bit of history of FAA PAVEAIR. Where did it come from? It has a fairly long history. Pavement management in general started back in the 60s with the Corps of Engineers. They developed software in the early 70s. It made the jump to what we call computers now, then were called microcomputers in the mid-80s. And that, as I said, there's several out there. A lot of them require license fees. So FAA put out their first public beta of this particular system over a decade ago. And they've continuously improved it since then. You can see several releases. Most recent release was in April of this year, version 3.7.2. So, as we said, just kind of walk through what FAA PAVEAIR is. The first and foremost is it's a web-based software. It was designed to be network accessible from the ground up. One of the points of that is so that multiple people can log in at once. You can access it from anywhere. And also there is no need to install anything on your local computer. There are no downloads. You don't have to go to the IT people and get permission to install a new piece of software or anything like that. You just go to the website and log in. This is the main screen, and as you can see, front and center as a login. The reason we make you log in is there are multiple people that use this. This is how we tell what data is yours. This allows you to have access to your data, but other people do not have access to your data if you don't want them to. That's the main reason we require logins, and we get into some data sharing. Once you've logged in, PAVEAIR is really divided into two general areas. You can see the toolbar across the top. This is the public area. This is where you look at inventory, analysis, and reporting type tools. These are public. This is if you have access to, if somebody makes a database public, if they decide to share their data and you don't own it, you can actually view other people's data if they allow you to. This is what you have access to. This is kind of the read-only portion of the software. This is where you can view things. Editing is reserved for people who actually own the data. So when I log in, I create my own databases. That data is mine. Other people, I can decide whether to give them access to it or not, but at any rate, I have access to it here. This is the edit portion of the website. This is where you make changes. You go to this area, you'll get a screen similar to this, and as you can see, this is where you do things like create new databases. If you go out and you do some sort of work in the on your airfield, this is where you record that. If you build a new piece of pavement, you would add it here, that sort of thing. We'll start out typically by creating a database. You can import the databases. This one is designed to take it's a fairly standard format, the micropaver formats. It's another piece of common software. Their imports and exports are called E50, E60, E65, or E70. We can read those if you have that information. If you just want to try it out and see what it looks like, you've got an existing database, you can just upload it, and PAVEAIR will read that file, create a database for you. One thing to note is if you import an E65 or an E70 and it has GIS data, it'll import the GIS data as well, so you'll get your maps imported along with the pavement management data. Once you import a database, it'll take you to this screen, which is the Manage Data screen. This is a fairly important screen. I talk a little bit about if you choose to decide to let other people see your data, or if you wanted to share databases, that sort of thing. This is where you do it from. The reason you come here directly from the import is there's a status. So you can see here I've just recently created this particular database, and it's telling me, okay, I've created the database, I've got it installed, I'm working on doing the maps, I've got that updated. PCI calculations sometimes take a while, so they run in the background. This will be able to tell you when they're done. Once you've got it imported, though, this is the important area here. This is where you decide who can see your database. This particular one is set to public. That means that anybody that has an account can see the data that I just uploaded. If you don't want anybody to be able to see it, except for yourself, you set it to private. That just means that only the person that owns it can see it. Once you set it to private, though, you do have the option of letting specific users be able to view and or change your data. There's two columns here down here. If you go through and you check a username, check the box next to a username in this column, that person is allowed to see your data regardless of whether it's public or private. If you check a username in this column, that person is allowed to not only see but edit your data regardless of this setting up here. Sharing, why would we allow other users to edit our data? Well, most airports don't have just a single person engineering department. They have multiple people that work with this type of data. Sometimes you need input from ops. Sometimes you want to let your executives see this sort of thing. Not only that, you may have a consultant that does the data collection for you. So by sharing data and allowing the databases to be accessed by multiple people, this does a couple things for us. One, you don't have to email the databases back and forth. I know in the past, back when I started doing pavement management, instead of emailing data, we were actually burning pavement management data to CD-ROMs and mailing them to our clients so that they would have a copy of the data. Now you can literally, once you've hired your consultant, they create a username, you assign them co-ownership, we call it, of the data. They can log directly into your database and put the data into your database, and it's immediately available to you. Some of the other things that you could do with it is you may have some senior executives that like to see the data, but you can set up a dashboard type for them where if they have read-only access, they can go in and look at anything they want at any time. Also, data sharing allows you to do multiple concurrent access. So again, back in the dark ages, we would have multiple technicians typing in data, that sort of thing. So, and then we would have to merge the data, or we would have to say this person could only, you would have to control and do version control. With multiple concurrent access, multiple people can enter the same, or be working on the same database at the same time. There are no conflicts. Everything's immediately available, and you can see what's going on. So the big thing is data sharing is how we do real-time access to data and analyses that other people are doing. And then once you've shared your data, or once you've imported your data, this is the home screen. You hit the Select a Database button, and it will bring up all the data that you have access to. There are 3 sets to this screen, the user database. So if I create a database, this is where it shows up. If someone else creates a database and shares it with me, this is also where that database would show up. If somebody creates a database and gives me read-only access, it shows up in this section. At the bottom is the list of all public databases. Everybody that's created a database, this is actually a screenshot off the live site. Everybody that's created a database and left their database public, their databases are listed here, and I can go in and take a look at that type of, take a look at their data. So just a quick recap again, database sharing in real time without having to do database merges, imports, exports, that sort of thing is fairly unique to PAVEAIR. It was designed with this in mind. The feature was added fairly recently to this level though. And the sharing features, like I said, are built in because it is web-based and it is networked from the ground up. The sharing is fairly deeply rooted into the software. It does give us per user access level so that I can say I want user A to have access to my data and only be able to look at it, but I want user B to have access to my data and be able to edit it and change it. And there are no restrictions about, well, only people within your organization or only people within your, with the same email address or that sort of thing. It can be internal or external. You can share it to anybody. One of the things that we found this helps with is we provide support to the FAA to do kind of a help desk type thing, is we'll ask users to share their database with us so we can just go in and look at their data and see if we can figure out what's causing whatever issue it is that they're having. So once you get your database in, again, the software, one of the things you have to be able to do is collect and maintain data. That's pretty standard for any software. This does it in the normal way. You've got network, branches, and sections. They're all shown and listed in your inventory section. And you can look at the details of those down to the section level. As you do work, you flip over to the Work tab. You can see the details of the particular work. This one I've just pulled up where the initial construction was. This looks like it was, actually it was imported as part of the database, probably out of an E70 file. And then the last thing that you really need to keep track of is condition. PAVEAIR is based on the ASTM D5340 PCI. It also supports the 6433 roadway PCI as kind of a bonus, so you can have both roadway and airfield networks in your same database. But it's the same organization, network, branch, and section, and drop-downs. Then you can see for this particular section how many inspections were there, in that inspection how many samples were there, and in that particular sample what were my distresses. Again, fairly standard. You can get the details of the current condition by clicking the PCI button. It takes you to a second page. And this particular page summarizes the overall condition at the top. So you can see the particular condition for this section is 69. It's got some, FOD. It looks like a lot of those distresses are FOD producing, but the SCI is much higher, so it's not really too much of a structural issue. And at the bottom are a series of tabs where you can look into the individual distresses. I have the extrapolated distresses shown. This gives you an idea of how many of each type of distress are there in the entire section. It uses the numbers from the sample units and extrapolates that across the entire section. So, something that PAVEAIR does have, and we added this several years ago, is it has a direct mobile data entry. So a lot of software, you can export the data, put it on a tablet, or you can actually run the data directly on a tablet and take that information, have 3 or 4 inspectors out there, they all do their inspection, then you come back, you merge all the information, re-upload it into your main repository. FAA PAVEAIR takes a different route. What this particular software does is if you're working on a mobile device, a cellular-enabled iPad, Android phone, anything that it recognizes as a mobile device, the software will detect that, and then instead of serving the normal desktop-based data entry system for PCI, it will give you a specialized, simplified mobile interface so that you can enter information on your phone or your mobile device. That data goes directly into the database. There's no merging, no middleman, and if you've got multiple inspectors, if I enter data for Section 1 and you're entering data for Section 2, as soon as I flip over to Section 2, I see what you've entered, so we're not running the risk of overlapping or repeating each other's work. So no synchronization at all. This is all automatic, all straight to the database. This also has the advantage of if I've got people out in the field, especially on like a statewide network where I've got somebody out in the panhandle of the state doing data inspection and I'm sitting in the state capitol, I can see their progress in real time. I can see what they're seeing. I can check in and see what they're entering as soon as they've entered it. Something else that PAVEAIR does, it's not necessarily unique, but it's fairly unusual, is the PCI curves come out of the ASTM standard. They're fairly small, blurry charts that are in an appendix of the standard. The FAA digitized these several years ago, and they published the exact numbers they used to generate these curves when we put them in the computer. So you can see here, this is alligator cracking, and these are the exact deduct values that the software uses. It uses a spline interpolation between these numbers to get the nice smooth curves. But for every single distress plus the corrected deduct curves, these numbers are published by PAVEAIR. So if you need this for research purposes or you just want to double check the calculations, anything like that, you can go into the software and get the numbers that, and these match the ASTM. So just a quick recap. Like I said, there's a couple of fairly unique items in here. One of them is the published PCI curves that I just talked about. They're easy to get to, and you can use them for any purpose you need. The other thing is the real-time mobile data entry. It's specifically designed to work on phones, smaller tablets, anything that's internet-enabled and out in the field. Once you've got your data and your information into the database, that's the collect and organize. You've got it, your branches and networks and your sections all set up and got conditions for them. Next step is to start your analysis. And the first thing that you typically need to do is, I know what my condition is today, what's it going to be tomorrow or 5 years from now? FAA PAVEAIR uses a regression-based models to do that. They call them family curves. And this is an estimate of how we expect pavement to deteriorate by age. Again, this is a regression tool. And you can see here, this is the model. The red line in the middle is the model. There's some statistical analyses, so you can do outliers, that sort of thing. That would be these lines. You're also able to set up hard limits. I don't want to use any data older than 10 years, or if I've got something with a PCI below 55 at age 4, I don't want to use that. They call these boundaries. That would be these type lines. Once you've done that, it runs a regression analysis, standard least squares regression type analysis. It gives you this line. Something else it will do for you, though, is it will estimate, based on the regression curve, what does the software recommend as a critical PCI. We'll get into this a little bit more later, but a critical PCI can be thought of as basically the trigger that says I need to start programming some sort of major action for this, an overlay or slab replacements, that sort of thing, something that's more than just patching. And in this particular one, this line here is what the software thinks the critical PCI is. It says once your pavements get down to, that looks like about 70, you should start planning to do some significant repairs to them. However, this particular family curve has it set at 55, so It will make a recommendation for you, but you can actually override the recommendation. You can have more than one family that's yours. Something else to note here is there are several models that start with FAA underscore. The FAA collects data from AIP-funded projects throughout the country. It then uses that information to create family curves based on all that data. So these can be thought of as nationwide kind of default curves. So if you're just getting started in pavement management, you don't really have enough data, or you've got a smaller airport that only has 5 or 6 sections to begin with, you don't have enough information to put together a real valid PCI curve, you can use some of the information, or you could actually use an existing FAA default curve. And as you can see, they've put some together: asphalt aprons, concrete runways, that sort of thing. So each of the major categories, and this curve is freely available. Anybody's allowed to use these, and you can assign your sections to these curves. Doesn't affect anything, but it gives you a head start on developing your pavement management system and on your analyses. So, and if you don't want to necessarily use an existing FAA curve, any data that's public, anybody's allowed to use. So you can see this list here of all the public database, or not all, but a portion of the public databases. You could look in here and say, I'm close to Des Moines or something like that, and I'm going to use some of their information to augment my data. You know, it's going to be similar data, similar aircraft traffic, similar climate, that sort of thing. It's close enough. We'll use it to augment our curves, and you can use other people's public data to develop your curves and enhance your curves, again, to kind of give you a head start as you get started in this if you have, for some reason, don't have enough information to develop the curves on your own. Another thing that FAA PAVEAIR, and this is a fairly recent addition, has added is the ability to manually enter your own curve. Several folks, they've got all the information and they want to do something more than just a least squares regression. They have pulled the data out into R or even Excel, something like that, come up with their own regression curve. So if you do a regression outside of the system, you can come to this particular screen, go to Manual Model, enter the equation, and that's what PAVEAIR will use for a family curve for that particular family. So again, prediction modeling, just to kind of sum up and go over a couple of the unique features of it. One is the FAA library curves, where the FAA has predefined a set of deterioration curves. It's kind of a nationwide average based on a lot of information from both hub and non-hub airports. And that gives an idea of how, overall, how does pavement deteriorate in general in the United States. If you don't have enough data to build your own, you can use one of those curves. If you don't want to do that, you can actually go into data from other nearby or similar airports, use their information to improve your analysis. And if you don't want to use the built-in regression tool that is in FAA PAVEAIR, you can use a manual curve entry. You can develop the curve outside of PAVEAIR and then type the equation in and use the equation from Excel or R or something like that. So what do we use these condition curves for and regression curves for? The main thing is condition analysis and M&R. As I said, the whole point of this is I know what my condition is now. I can go back and look what it was 5 years ago. But what's really important is what is my condition going to be 5 years from now or next year? Because that's how I plan for what kind of maintenance am I going to need next year or 5 years from now. How much money am I going to need next year and 5 years from now? So a couple of what places to do this. The first and the main one is the condition analysis. This allows you to look at units of pavement, either individual sections all the way up to entire networks, which would be like an entire airport, that sort of thing. Just what is the historical trend, and then what do I expect it to be in the future? Again, this just gives you You can have a graphical plot of it for those that are graphical thinkers. If you want to get into more detailed analysis, the same information is provided in a tabular format. It gives you the pavement age, the condition we expect it to be. Something fairly unique to this is not only does it tell you what the condition is, it also tells you how did PAVEAIR come up with this estimated condition. Did it use the regression curves we were talking about? It says inspection, that means that somebody went out and measured that. Interpolation means we're drawing a straight line between two condition inspections. M&R, though, this is really the main purpose of pavement management. This is the meat of the application. This is where you get into what do I have to do to my pavement to keep it serviceable? When should I be doing this? And how much is it going to cost me? M&R is fairly complex, so when you click on the M&R button on the menu in PAVEAIR at the top of the screen, it actually takes you to an entirely different submenu. The menu changes, and you get into all the features. So the main screen is the management. That's where you're talking about what scenarios have I come up with, what am I going to do, or if I wanted to create a new one. The particular controls for each type of scenario, families, and then reporting at the end. So PAVEAIR does the typical M&R analysis types. You can either base your analyses, what kind of work do I need to do based on the stresses, they call that a consequence of local repair, or you can base your analysis on estimated conditions. That's typically a minimum condition or the critical PCI. So you can see here, I've got just you create, what database and the name. We end up here, you create a new one, and it takes you to a screen similar to this. This is where you give it all the information it needs. What sections do I need? When am I making this plan for? Does it start this year, next year? Does it run 5 years, 10 years, that sort of thing? More importantly, it runs into what costs am I going to use? What policies am I going to use? Policy is just what does your airport do if you have an L&T crack? Do you patch it, or do you do crack seal? Same thing for alligator patching, cracking, that sort of thing. You set up a set of these, and this is how PAVEAIR determines what needs done and what it costs. You can see also most of these are grayed out. That's because these are set up by families. You can predefine these groups or sets of, I want to use this policy and this set of costs, and I want my asphalt to use that. I want to set up a different policy and different costs, and I want my concrete to use that. That allows them to all run in the same analysis and give reasonable answers. So you would set up your families using the M&R family button. Once you've run your analysis and gotten the results, it gives you the typical reports of lists of sections and what has to happen by year, that sort of thing. Something we've added to FAA PAVEAIR that helps with your analysis, though, is having a scenario that says I have $1 million or I need $1 million to run to keep my pavement in good condition. A lot of times you're going to go, well, what happens if I had $2 million, or what happens if I only had $500,000? We've added some features in the M&R reports. What this allows you to do is you run it for $1 million, you run it for $2 million. You actually will bring both of those up and run a comparison at the same time. You can get it in tabular format or graphical, so you can get an idea. I can spend this much, and then you can see what the PCI, how the PCI changes based on how much money you're spending. So just again, a recap of M&R planning. It's the fairly typical distress or condition-based M&R planning. Most software has this. Again, we use the policies and the unit cost curves. You use this to estimate what do I need to do to my pavement, how much is it going to cost me. It's a rough order of magnitude cost estimate. And then we've added several features to allow easy comparison, so you can fairly quickly look at, well, if I've got $1 million versus $2 million versus $5 million, what's the most cost-effective way to spend that money? once you've got all that information, we have several features in there to allow you to do reporting and, as I said, build your story so you can go to your executives or your financial board, whoever provides the money, and convince them that, yeah, we really need to be planning this much money because I have to fix this taxiway 3 years from now. Something else we found helps, in addition to colored pie charts or maps. Everybody likes maps, so there is a built-in GIS. The photography in the background is provided free of charge by the FAA. It's a Microsoft Bing imagery, and you're actually able to go through, look at conditions. Here I've got a surface type shown for this particular airport. This is a public airport in the system, and once you get this information, you can actually download. You click download, and you can download the shapefiles for these. Some additional features, just kind of wrapping up here. What we've covered so far is pretty standard. Most pieces of software and most pavement management systems will have some type of the things that we just covered. But to get into some things that are truly unique to software that the FAA provides, one of the first things that they spent a fair amount of time on is, if any of you have looked at the ASTMs and have looked at the distress definitions in the back of the ASTM, this is a fairly typical black and white photo. I went back and looked. These date from the 1970s. The FAA said, yeah, I can't figure out what to do with that, so they spent a fair amount of time and effort going through and finding high-quality, high-resolution color photographs and including those in their help manual. This is available online. You click the help button in FAA PAVEAIR. This is an appendix to that. And this is available in, again, the 4 languages: English, French, Spanish, and Portuguese. Something else that FAA does that is unique is they pull and coordinate data with NOAA. So you're actually able to get climate data for your particular airport. In this one, you tell it what network you're dealing with. This is associated with the network ID, and it will go into NOAA information. The NOAA information actually comes from the AWOS or the ASOS that's located on your airfield, and pull highs, lows, precipitation, that sort of thing. This is, again, freely available, and it summarizes the information for you. A lot of this is useful if you're doing design work for freeze thaw protection, that sort of thing. Something else that the larger airports really like is traffic. So FAA tracks everything using radar. There's also ADS-B, that sort of thing, that all gets rolled together into a single data set called the threaded track data. And through PAVEAIR, FAA makes this available to the public. So for your particular airport, again, you give it the correct airport identifier. You can go in, specify a time frame. It rolls it up minimum of a month, and it will tell you what airports or what aircraft the FAA has tracked going in and out of your airport based on radar data. This could be quite a lengthy list of aircraft types. So there are also features to do things like filter it down. In this particular example, we're looking at just Gulfstreams. And then one of the last things that I'll talk about today is FAA has more than just PAVEAIR. They have 5 pieces of software ranging from far field, which is mandatory for use for thickness design, to grooving for friction. Pro-FAA, they look at roughness, and then BACFA for those of you that do FWD back calculation. And in the past, none of these talk to each other. So FAA had us come up with a method for combining these into a single suite. It's similar to, say, Microsoft Office, where they're different pieces of software, but they all use a similar data format. We call that the Pavement Document Object Model, also called PDOM. And it's basically an XML-based representation of all the information that can be contained in these 5 pieces of software. And so, for example, I can create, do a back calculation in far field or in BACFA, transfer that information to far field to a design, and then attach that design to a specific section in PAVEAIR, all without having to retype the data in. It just moves the data back and forth seamlessly. So again, some PAVEAIR-specific features kind of highlight these. The climate, which is from NOAA data from a AWOS on your airport. Traffic comes from ADS-B, radar-type data into a threaded track data. And then the PDOM, which allows it to communicate with other FAA software. We've also found out that this XML format's easy to understand and edit, so we've been able to do other things like use it for direct entry of data from, say, an image-based survey system, that sort of thing. So just to kind of summarize, what is FAA PAVEAIR and what have we covered today? So the FAA puts out a piece of software called PAVEAIR. It's web-based, multi-user with built-in data sharing. It allows you to meet the requirements of the Advisory Circular 150-5380-7B. That means it will store and organize your pavement information. It will help you with the analyses to determine what kind of maintenance do you need and roughly what will it cost. And it will get you reports and maps to communicate out. Several unique features in it, the most unique being the NOAA climate data, the FAA traffic data being available to the public, and then the PDOM so that it will communicate with, say, far field or backfop, that sort of thing as well. So this is, you know, by this point you're telling yourself, this is great, I want this, how do I sign up? Again, web-based, nothing to install. You just go to FAAPAVEAIR.faa.gov and click the register button. You'll be given an account. The FAA will ask for some information. The only thing that's used for is account maintenance. It does not get sold or shared with anybody. So with that, I will turn it back over to Jerry and let him finish us out.
Thank you, Tim. That was a deep dive into that really powerful piece of software. You did a great job, my friend. So hopefully you enjoyed today's program. We've been doing this for quite a while. We're quite very, very proud of it, everybody at ARA. We do, and those of you who have been with us for a number of occasions every month, we try intentionally to mix up our topics. The objective is twofold, is to communicate technical information, and secondly, equally as important, to make everybody aware of the state of practice, state of art, capabilities, and experience of our diverse ARA experts. All of our presenters are ARA staff. So some upcoming webinars, and a reminder in terms of the registration format, you see it on slide number 52. In August, the title of the presentation is Knowledge Guided Machine Learning for Geotechnical Resilience. Dr. Ahmad Alasan will be presenting that program. And in September, we'll turn back to pavements with a slightly different stance, talking about that September program on highway pavements. And the title of that program, as you can see, is Transitioning from Manual to Automated Distress Identification for our good friends at Florida DOT, their statewide pavement condition survey. That'll be presented by my good friend, Mateo Cavala. So continue to submit your questions as we go along here. We've got programs now currently scheduled through March of 2024, tentatively. We don't have exact times for all of those and dates yet. The time, of course, will always be on a Wednesday. It always starts at noon Eastern. So now, Tim, we're going to put you on the hot spot a little bit here. And if we don't have sufficient time to get to your questions, Tim has graciously volunteered to address questions that are remaining or anything that you think of following today's program within the next 24 hours. Now, due to the sensitivity of the topic, please do not address a question in the form of a consultant question. And Tim may look at your question and then say, I really can't, due to the sensitivity of the topic, give you an exact answer. He may also appoint you and direct you to other parties. So question number one comes to us from Nicole. And Nicole's question is, Tim, you mentioned that FAA maintains a server. does FAA look at my data? We don't obviously know what Nicole's data is or who it's from.
No, the FAA does not look at this data. It's a SQL server. It lives on an FAA server. But in general, your data is your data, and the FAA does not look at it. We, as a help desk, don't look at it either.
Okay, thank you. So next question is from our good friend Dan. And Dan would like to know if he can set up his own PAVEAIR server for internal use instead of using the FAA hosted one.
Yes, it's public domain software. The source code and the compiled code are available. You can download it from the FAA and install it on your own computers. You will have to know how to set up, uses Microsoft SQL Server and Microsoft IIS as a port. So you'll have to set those up on your own before you install FAA PAVEAIR.
Okay, very good. Another question, this one from Jamal, and he would like to know if you can download GIS files or maps for printing or for further analysis, and if you can download them, what type of format is available for those downloads?
Yes, you can actually download the maps in two places, one in the member area, one directly from the map page, and they come in the Esri shapefile format. Okay, and then I have the next question. A lot of acronyms here, so forgive me if I misspeak. This next question comes from Linda, and Linda would like to know for PDOM, how do PAVEAIR and far field communicate, and do you have to upload a far field project file to PAVEAIR? I can repeat that if it's not clear there. No, that's fine. Thanks, Jerry. Far field actually communicates in an upcoming release. We're involved with that as well. Far field in the next release will have features to contact FAA PAVEAIR directly over the internet. You would not have to, as she says, take a job file and upload it. You can input your PAVEAIR credentials. You have to have an account in PAVEAIR, but you can put your PAVEAIR credentials into Farfield, and Farfield will contact PAVEAIR, and it will download copies of your databases, that sort of thing, and it will upload the information directly to PAVEAIR. There's no transferring a file on the user's part. Okay, we've got a few more minutes left for questions. I have some additional questions. Next one is from Edward. Does climate change, what does that climate data encompasses Canadian airports also? I think it does. NOAA has a worldwide database. I would have to go back and check to see if we included the non-U.S. airports, but I think they are included. I have not verified that, though. Okay, thank you. Let's see if we can get in. We've got a couple more here. Shirley wants to know if this software can be used internationally or just within the U.S. It is perfectly allowed to be used internationally. We have, as I mentioned earlier, folks in South America, Central America, some in Europe. So you can use it internationally. And the FAA will support international users as well. Okay, Catherine asked, how do you update the airport code or runway designator when using the auxiliary tab? That is in the member area, and if you go to member area and update inventory, there's a spot to edit your network. That's where you would change your network code, and there's a spot in the branch they call it add a runway end, because you not only have to have you have to know what runways as well. Every runway's got an end associated with it. It's in the member area update inventory.
Okay, and last question, we'll do this one quick, is from Barry. You mentioned that some other countries are using FAA site, so I take it that the ICAO does not have a similar free software, or is the FAA PAVEAIR becoming the main software across the world? I do know that some agencies use PAVEIR.
I'm not aware if ICAO has a similar software. I can't really speak to that. As he says, some agencies use PAVEIR, some other agencies use PAVEAIR. So, but I'm not aware of ICAO having similar software.
Okay, that's great. And if you think of additional questions, that's all we have right now, and we're out of time as well. There is Tim's email address. Remember, 24 hours, please, no consulting questions. Next slide, please. So just as a reminder, all the participants who joined for the entire hour today will receive 1 hour PTH certificate, as well as a PDF copy of today's presentations, and allow 3 weeks to receive the certificate. It takes us a little less time to upload the PDF file, but you'll be aware of that. If you have any questions, you can see our contact information here, ARAwebinar@ARA.com. So please allow time and don't hesitate to contact us if you have any questions about this particular program. Next slide, please. So just a little infomercial on behalf of ARA. It's a wonderful national company. We're approaching 1,800 employees. We have approximately 50 offices, and we're also always looking for great people. So we strive to find valuable people who share our core values of passion, freedom, service, and growth. We believe in science and engineering for fun and profit. That's an exciting statement. It's stuck with me since day one, 10 years ago that I joined the company. If you're interested in current employment opportunities, you see the address that's listed here, www.joinara@ara.com. I want to thank you all once again for joining us today. Remember, August 16th is our next program, and we look forward to seeing you all. Have a blessed day. God bless you all. Thank you.